The Wednesday week is sponsored by the Riverside Cafe, the perfect place for a pre-match pint.
There's a chance here, a great save. A turner from McClare. Mike Hannon. A terrific goal by Sheridan.
Brexman against Jones. Get in.
You could have two goalkeepers in there that would have trouble with saving.
Hello and welcome to the Wednesday week, the Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm James. This is just really kind of a one-off special podcast, and there's just two of us on tonight. There's me and there's Vic.
Hello, you all right?
Hi. So it's just the two of us because we were both at the steering group meeting earlier on this week. It's taken us a couple of days to get around to recording this. And now it was the first time that you've been to the steering group meeting, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. It was quite an experience. I almost want to say it's 4.5 hours of my life that I won't get back, but half of the hour of that was good, so I don't mind too much.
Yeah, it was a long one. There were more people there than there normally is. It's obviously, I mean, I'm guessing it's the first time that you've kind of had the chance to hear the chairman speaking kind of, live in person. What were your sort of impressions of him?
Do you know what I was thinking on the night? I think that's genuinely the first time I've ever heard him speak, because I don't think, after watching him and listening to him, I don't think I've ever watched an interview with him before. I know he kept repeating the fact that he doesn't do interviews very often, but I don't think I've watched anything. So it was interesting just to see him and to see him there in the flesh. And he's a lot younger than I thought he was. He looks a lot younger in the flesh as well. But just his passion was so obvious, wasn't it? All the way through. He's so passionate. I think he's passionate. He's just a passionate man in general. He was very sort of my way or the highway. But that seems to have done as good so far. So you can't really complain.
Yeah, I think the first time that I went, the thing that really grabbed me was just how determined he is, how passionate he is. I mean, he talked about how in love with Sheffield Wednesday he is on Wednesday night. He talked about how it's in his blood now, he also mentioned this kind of this figure of money that he's put into the club already, which is £150 million, which kind of blew me away a little bit.
That was a lot more than I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. You kind of think about the transfer fees and the little bits and bobs that he's done, but you add it all together and you think, yeah, God, it really does add up very, very quickly in 2 years.
You have to think about the stuff that he's pumped in order to be able to make those transfers. So that 150 million has gone into the club. And yes, we might not have seen, I would say 50 million of it, but that's because it's had to go in there for financial fair play as well, isn't it? So whilst a lot of people, I heard a few people grunting afterwards saying, "Oh, it can't be 150. I've tried to add it up." Actually, it probably is. It's probably quite a bit more. He's just not counted it up as properly as he might do if he's with his accountant.
Just to cover off the financial fair play thing, because he mentioned that this season we're all right. If we don't get promoted, then there might be things that he needs to look at, and we might be kind of sailing quite close to the wind. So that's something that I guess we kind of just put to the back of our minds for now. Let's go on the assumption that we'll be in the Premier League in 12 months' time, and we don't need to worry about it. That seems like the logical thing to do in the in the situation. Now, the first thing that was talked about, and it will be the first thing that we talk about now, even though I think probably everyone listening to this will already know all this and will already have kind of covered all this. But there was quite a bit at the beginning about the new kit and what's gone wrong and kind of that process. Now, there'll have been a lot that's been written on social media about this, so probably not telling you anything that you don't already know, but just to run through that this is the first time that the club have kind of produced their own kit. So way back in, I think he said last October was when they first started talking to suppliers. Yeah. They found a supplier that agreed prices. They went through samples. Everything was going well. When it comes round to May of this year, so just 3 months ago, just over 3 months ago, the supplier doubled the prices. So the club either had the choice of take that financial hit or do something different. So the club decided to go back out and find a different partner. and they did that. They've managed to get the shirts done. I did jot down some kind of key quotes from Joe Palmer, the chief operating officer, whereby he acknowledged the club aren't happy with it, but he said the reality is they're just pleased to have got a shirt out in time for the new season.
I think on the note of Joe Palmer, James, did you agree with me? I think he came across so well and so humble during that bit. I think it would have been quite easy to blame everybody else, and it probably wasn't directly his fault. I imagine he had a lot to do with the decisions and everything else, but he really, really took that on the chin. He was just like, hands up, like literally held his hands up, and he said, look, I take full responsibility for this. And he mentioned one of Fudge's arguments that we may well lose some sales on that. And my question was going to be, just to the room rather than to everyone on the top table, was how many people will now go out and buy a Sheffield United shirt in those 2 weeks because ours wasn't available? And I guarantee it's none. So I don't think we've lost anything really, apart from 2 weeks, and we're acting like 2 weeks is the end of the world. They said it'd probably be middle of August, didn't they? By the time mid to end of August, by the time it comes out for sale. But I don't think that's ridiculous. I think we're overreacting over a couple of pieces of cloth, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd all kind of say it's not ideal. I don't really tend to buy shirts, so it doesn't particularly affect me. But I appreciate those people that do want it as early as possible. And I think, the club in an ideal world will have it out earlier than they have done. Well, definitely would. But I think the thing about it is it's the first time whereby they've done it by themselves, and that's great in terms of the fact that it means that the profit goes into the club. Mm-hmm. There isn't a third-party kit manufacturer, Adidas, who are siphoning off half the money just for the privilege of having their badge on your shirt. So it's good in that sense. And Joe Palmer said several times that we've learned a lot of lessons from it. We will not be sat here in 12 months talking about how late the shirt has come out, because they will know how to do this now for future seasons. Mm-hmm. And whether they go with the same partner or not, the shirt will be out in plenty of time next summer. So you know what? Let's just all kind of take this one on the chin a little bit. If you are someone that buys the shirt every year, then just appreciate the fact that the club are doing something that financially really benefits them. So for this summer, you've just got to kind of take that hit.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the questions that was asked was about the quality as well. I don't know if you've got that in your notes, but someone asked, what is the quality like? And Joe Palmer said it's as good as last year's, if not better. And that, great. It could have quite easily been one of these that you buy from certain Sheffield-based websites that sell kits for football clubs that are a bit tatty or they're a bit thin. And we've had some awful kits over the years. I mean, like if you remember the Plusnet ones, they were really thin, they were dreadful. And I think if we've got something that's decent, it's the quality last year was great. They were nice, they were thin, they had that warming stuff in if it's cold, cooling stuff if it's warm, and all that jazz. And I think if it's quality enough and it washes okay and everything else, we can't really complain. Yeah, great.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. There was quite a long discussion that came off the back of Joe Palmer's kind of statement about the shirt situation, which went off topic quite a bit, including there was one particular gentleman who I believe had travelled from Lancashire, although I'm not 100% sure on that. He did mention it a few times, who kind of took it off on several tangents. But
I think the more I think about that guy, though, do you not? The guy was from Lancashire. He mentioned it, like we said, quite a few times. I think by the fifth time, I couldn't stop laughing. It had been it was getting ridiculous. But the fact he was trying to give Mr. Chansiri, the Thai billionaire businessman, advice over was it a wedding marquee company or something? Yeah, he was like, now, Mr. Chansiri, if you'd have gone to my suppliers, it's like, oh man, this guy's a billionaire for a reason. Leave him alone.
It was a bit cringeworthy, wasn't it? It really was. Although there was a fair question asked, which was about why has the club not made any kind of statement about the kit situation? Because I think for every single person in that room, it was the first time that we'd learned what was actually happening. There were no kind of rumours going around, leaks of information. It was genuinely no one really knew what was what was going on with it. And what was kind of said from that, which I thought was quite interesting actually, which was that the chairman didn't want to put out a statement because he says you get more trouble from doing that, more people coming back, arguing, asking questions, giving you stick, that it's just not worth it. And I thought, I mean, I don't know what that kind of says about us as fans or us as a fan base as a whole. But the club kind of feel it's better to say nothing than to say something and get kind of all the comeback from that.
Yeah, I think the PR bird in me cringed a little bit thinking of the PR team there and like Trevor Braithwaite, who does a great job. And I was thinking about him and thinking, oh, if that was me, I'd be chomping at the bit. I'd be desperate to get something out just to say. But I think they know full well, as much as there were a few things that night that he said, I don't want this to leave this room and whatever else, they know it will. So they know that fans are going to talk. They know that the people they got there were, we're there as press partners. Dom Howson's there. The guys from Owls Talk are there. The guys from the Cop End, New York Owls. There were loads of groups there who are going to spread the news. And I'd be very surprised if somebody doesn't hear that outside of that room. The message was there loud and clear. It was, this is what's happened. This is the problem. It didn't need to go on the website in the end. It will get out there to people. If people don't read the internet, they'll buy the Star. If they don't buy the Star, they'll chat to a bloke in the Asda. If they don't go to the Asda, they'll go to the pub. It's going to get out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So the kind of the kit situation took up probably the first hour or so of the
easily
of the meeting, including the kind of the footnotes from it. I guess were that this new partner is also going to be supplying lots of new stuff that's going in the shop. There are various other deals that are being sorted at the moment for other kind of new stuff that's going to go in the shop as well. So we're talking about kind of big kind of range of stuff. I know it's not the first time that we've sort of heard this, but it did sound like they were pretty confident within the next couple of months that the so-called megastore will actually be a megastore again, and there will be a lot more stuff in there.
I think you only have to look at Joe Palmer's history as well and the stuff that he's done. And he's got a very, very good CV. He's made it work at numerous other clubs. So he'll make it work here. He does just need time. And it's like Mr. Chansiri kept saying to everybody, you think it's easy and you think we just go online and order loads of stuff. But actually, they've got to really drill down into what's going to sell, what's sold before. Do we want loads of Danny Wilson Toby jugs in there again? No, we don't. So therefore, they have to go out and look and find out what else they can get. But is it going to be things like yo-yos that we can buy in at 90p and sell on for £3? No, because we probably won't sell many. They've got to balance things out, and it's not just a case of opening a catalogue and picking things. They've really got to look at it, and it's a really strategic operation to do that. And I think, for a lot of us, I've got the experience in working, obviously, in selling things and obviously working for the club and selling things in the club shop. But I think for a lot of people on the outside, you do think, well, Man United have these lanyards. Why don't we have lanyards? Well, maybe we've not sold any before. So what's the point? It's going to take a team of people. It's not just going to be Mr. Chansiri and Joe Palmer sat in a room saying, oh, what would you buy? It's a big project to run.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was kind of an acknowledgement as well about the fact that they do want the stuff that they get in to be of a reasonable quality, because they acknowledge the fact that the prices in the shop are more than what you'd pay for a similar item without the Sheffield Wednesday badge on. So they do want to make sure it's decent quality, and I guess that means quite a lot of shopping around to get the right stuff. And I thought it was quite interesting as well that they kind of touched on this idea of the fact that they've got a few kind of local suppliers. I think there's some prints and some kind of canvases in the shop now that have been made by someone locally, just a fan that they're selling. And kind of splitting the profit, which I thought was a nice touch when you think about there's a lot of talk about how the kit's been manufactured in China, but kind of bringing it closer to home, the fact that there is stuff that's been made by someone. You kind of think of someone pretty much in their front room, don't you? Kind of like making these prints. The club are willing to sell them as well.
Well, I know someone bought my mum one of the like decoupage things that they make that are like these paper sort of pictures that are all raised and whatever, and someone bought her one, and I wouldn't buy it in a million years, but it is a nice little gift, and you can tell by looking at it that someone has sat there, like you said, in the front room, probably someone who works full time, has a family, wants a bit of extra income, or someone who's just a genuine fan, or someone who just likes to do a bit of crafty stuff. And you can tell that it's handmade. And I think that's a nice mixture. If we had everything handmade, everyone would complain that it was crap and it was expensive, because obviously we've got to pay the people that make it. And I thought it was quite amusing how somebody asked why we weren't making the kits in Sheffield, which is just, okay. That's going to happen at that sort of price. I just think people don't have an idea sometimes about the cost of producing mass things like that and how much cheaper it is to go to, I think they said China and Pakistan, didn't they?
Yeah. Although if you're after wedding tents, apparently Germany is the second cheapest place.
It is.
There you go.
It is.
So a few of the things that were kind of touched upon and talked about, and this idea of having a cafe within the shop is still progressing. That's not an idea that's dead in the water. That will happen. I think Mr. Chansiri kind of made reference to his sort of bemusement at the planning regulations within the UK and how long things take.
I loved it. He went, if I want to change a door, I have to fill in a form. It's like, yeah, welcome to England.
I want to change the door. I just changed the door. It was brilliant. Other things. So we've got these 6 new kiosks around the ground that will be open in time for the first league game of the season. So they're going to be kiosks that selling things like tickets, kits, other merchandise, and there'll also be places whereby you can top up your either membership or season ticket card, or I assume that they'll have some kind of other just kind of cash card available for people that aren't a member or don't have a season ticket, because we will be, from the first game of the season, we will be a cash-free stadium. You will not be able to buy drinks, food, snacks or anything using cash. You will have to top up your card at one of these kiosks beforehand. And we knew that this was coming, although I must say I had a conversation with one of my friends a couple of weeks ago whereby he said, well, there's no way in which they'll be able to do it in time for the season because they need to be telling people now because people will find it really confusing. But it is happening.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I know so it was 2009 that I was there, and at the time we signed a deal with a company called Team Card. And that was very much of the same idea, that you would be able to top up your card, you'd be able to, pay cashless. Well, pay cashless, not in contactless like we do now, but pay cashless. And it never happened because the technology, believe it or not, like that many years ago, how many years ago is it? 7 years ago, 8 years. 8 years ago.
There we go.
8 years ago was so much further behind. It was. I know, like at work where I am now, we've got numerous canteens like all over like the offices, and you can buy a cash card. Well, you get a cash card. It's a points card if you just want to use it as a points card, or you can top it up and just pay contactless. So it is doable. It's just, how long will that take, and will the company be right? And I think Joe Palmer also mentioned about you get points for everything that you spend in the ground as well. So if you buy a pie at half time, in theory, you should get some points that you can spend in the shop, which is great. It's a nice little incentive.
Yeah, and it's just the way that things are going. And I think when you think about I can't remember if it was the last one or the one before the steering group, where they acknowledge the fact that there are large sums of cash that just vanish every season, and over the course of a season, significant amount of cash that they lose out on because of this. So I think that's quite interesting. These kiosks will be the place where you buy your ticket. So I'm guessing that means that you won't be able to pay by cash at the turnstile anymore, that it will be ticket only through the turnstile, and that you'll have to go to the kiosk and buy the ticket from there, which at least means the club can kind of manage the situation that bit more, and make sure that no money goes walkers, which has got to be a good thing.
Yeah, and I think as well. Oh,
no, go on.
Sorry, it's because you're so far ahead of me, because you keep cutting out and then speeding up. I was going to say, thinking as well from like a marketing perspective at the club, if they do that and they stop the cash on the gates, and someone has to go, even if it's your granddad who doesn't have a credit card and he just uses cash and whatever else, and they have to go to the kiosk, eventually they're going to get figures and statistics in about the type of people that are going, and age ranges and whatever else that they might miss out on by just cash in hand. And sort of, yes, people might pay for an OAP ticket or a child's ticket, but it's going to give them a really clear sort of measurement of their demographic that's going in. and it's going to make things easier for restocking the shop next season, or different offers that they do. It's going to make that data is going to be so crucial to the marketing side of the club and to Joe Palmer.
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of made note of a few other little bits and bobs. So I'll just kind of whiz through them now, and then I guess, Vic, if there's any of these that you kind of want to come back on in, then feel free. But just to whiz through the other notes that I made. Now, this is actually something that I'd already... I mean, this meeting went on until nearly 1 o'clock in the morning. Let's just make that clear. I left at 11 because I was up early for work and I really needed some sleep.
10:30 and I had a
But one of the
rattle.
things that was... Yeah. Oh, of course, yeah. One of the things that was talked about after I left, so I'm just going to kind of prefix this with an apology if this is not entirely accurate. So as I understand it, there was talk about a scheme whereby you pay a certain sum of money, somewhere between kind of £1,500, £2,000, and you get a plaque on your seat with your name on, and the kind of the reward for doing this imminently will be that when the club is promoted to the Premier League, you will get, now I think it's a 3-year season ticket in the Premier League, kind of for free really. That's your reward for kind of buying this plaque. So I've seen a few different people that stayed longer than me kind of talk about it in different ways. So the way that Cleggy from the Cop End kind of talks about it is that it's effectively buying your season ticket for the Premier League now. So you pay for it now. And it means that you're putting the money into the club that will help them get to the Premier League before they get there. Something along those sort of lines. So I've got to admit, I wasn't there when this was talked about, so please take this with a pinch of salt. I don't know how accurate what I'm saying is, but I believe that details about this scheme are going to be coming out pretty soon. So it's worth kind of keeping an eye on the website. I'm sure there'll be a lot of talk about it as and when that kind of becomes common knowledge, really.
Yeah, I heard the same thing and the same sort of figures from 2 other people who stayed late. So I'm guessing we're on the right track. We'll have to just wait and see. I didn't hear that it was guaranteed that you were going to get a 3-year season ticket. I thought it was if we go up that season. But again, it's Chinese whispers, isn't it, once everyone's left the room?
Yeah, as I said, and I apologise now if anything I've said there is inaccurate. It's not deliberate. I'm not trying to mislead anyone. Please don't go on Twitter saying, "Oh, that guy from the Wednesday Week's been lying about this, that, and the other." I'm just trying to give you a flavour of something that was talked about when I wasn't there. So please hang on for the official information before you kind of draw any conclusions on that. There was a bit of talk about the Rangers friendly on various different levels, but kind of what I took from it was just how disappointed the club was with the conduct of the Rangers fans this time compared to the last time we played them 3 or 4 years ago, whatever it was. There was quite a bit of damage caused to the North Stand. There were quite a few fights. There was some damage caused to local properties, and the club is kind of totting up the cost of that to send over to Rangers. There was quite a bit of talk as well about this thing about how there were Wednesday fans who were either buying tickets for Rangers fans in the home end or were selling their tickets on to Rangers fans at a profit, which led to this situation of quite a few Rangers fans in the home end, which led to a bit of conflict, quite a few people feeling uncomfortable, and definitely not the atmosphere. I wasn't there on Sunday, but definitely not the atmosphere of 3 or 4 years ago when I was there, which was a totally different ball game, really. You were there, weren't you, on Sunday?
I was, yeah. I was quite high up in the South Stand, so I was just behind the director's box. So I didn't see any trouble in the South Stand, but I was aware that, there were a few people there. They'd got flags, they'd got Rangers shirts on. And I think sometimes, do you know what? I look at rugby on the telly, and I like to watch a bit of rugby, and I do. But they will sit with opposition fans, share a beer, have a chat, and it's just a completely different way of watching sport, and it's really good fun. Like, I've been to a couple of rugby games where you are sat with the opponent, and you sat and you chat, and you say, "Oh, have you seen this guy? Have you seen that?" Blah, 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 and you talk about your season. We don't have that in football for some reason. I don't know whether it's because in rugby the aggression's on the pitch and you get all that, and you don't feel the need to be aggressive in the crowd. Whether it's just a completely different type of fan that goes, I'm not sure, but it does happen. So I can understand. I can't remember his name. Is it Stansfield, the guy who's now security?
Yeah, well, we'll either call him Stan or we'll call him Dave Jones because he's a dead ringer for our ex-manager.
Yeah, he was lovely. He came across like a really good guy who's been brought in to do the right thing. And he was saying that the reason that they didn't approach the Rangers fans that were in the South Stand was because they didn't want to cause animosity. He admitted, that we were completely unprepared due to 4 years ago. We weren't expecting that sort of atmosphere. We weren't expecting flares. We weren't expecting drinking in the stands. And he said, we didn't like throw people out because we didn't want to cause that scene. And I completely get that, because the amount of times that you see something in town, or after, if you're leaving a match and there'll be opposition fans walking out next to you, and as soon as like the police or the stewards arrive, this sort of red mist appears. And I can understand him not wanting to do that. And to be fair, I saw 2 or 3, not very many Rangers fans around us, and they were all quite like in the 50s, in the 60s. They were just sat watching the match. Yes, they cheered when they scored, but it was a pre-season friendly. It wasn't the playoff final. So I can completely understand his take on that and why they acted how they did. But I also really appreciate the fact that the guy, he held his hands up. He was completely honest. And he said, look, I was told it was easier 4 years ago. I've not been here that long. I completely misjudged it, and we're sorry. And that's, what else can they do? They can't say anything else other than that, apart from let's not play them again at Hillsborough.
It was quite refreshing. It's the first time that I've heard the guy talk, and I didn't even realise that we got kind of a new stadium manager in. But I thought, there was a lot of honesty. He's obviously got a plan. He talked about wanting to bring stewarding back in-house. I think we had stewards from the northeast that were kind of shipped in last season. He's talked about a big recruitment drive, wanting to train up stewards, then ultimately wanting Sheffield Wednesday to become a club that can kind of hire out their stewards to other places. So if there's a gig at the arena, that they'll come to Sheffield Wednesday and say, can we hire your stewards because they're so well trained, that kind of thing, and doing it all in conjunction with like a big training course at the college or the university. I can't remember what he said, but I thought that was really good, really promising. He also mentioned about this golden date, Monday the 7th of August, which is when we'll find out what our capacity for this season is going to be. So it was 33,000 something, wasn't it, last season?
And interestingly, he said as it stands now, it's still the same. Because I've read so many reports saying that it's gone down to like 22, 28 or whatever. But he said, as it stands now, it's still the same as it was last season. And there was something about fireproofing as well, wasn't there? One of the big things from SAG was Safety Advisory Group was something about fireproofing the stands. And he said he's doing that one by one. So he's hoping that there shouldn't be an issue. But with it being the Safety Advisory Group, there probably will be. So who knows?
Yeah. 3 other things that I made a note of, and I think by this point I was getting quite tired, so I was just jotting down the stuff that I thought, that's quite interesting. So there was the first time I think that since I've been going to the steering group that there was talk about actual football. It's normally talk about behind the scenes stuff, and that's what it was set up for, really. But there was a bit of discussion about actual on the pitch stuff. Mr. Chansiri acknowledged the need for defenders. He said that he does realise that that's a priority, so I thought that was quite interesting. There was also talk about the prestigious pre-season friendly, which unfortunately never happened, is not going to happen. I know there's been a few kind of rumours knocking around that maybe that weekend of the international break in September there might be something happening. There won't be. Forget about that. They approached Barcelona, they approached Real Madrid. It looked very promising it looked quite promising with both by the sounds of it, but unfortunately because of the fact that our season starts a week earlier, it meant that it couldn't happen. That I think both were willing to play a game that would actually have fallen on the same day that we play Preston, our first game of the season.
Yep.
So obviously that can't happen, so that went out the window. And the only other thing that I made a note of was the fact that there has been an increase in the number of season tickets that we've sold. It's broken 20,000. Quite strangely, no one was willing to tell us exactly how many it was, which I thought was a little bit odd, but there we go. But there was a figure of the fact that there's just over 3,000 new season tickets being sold this season, which I thought was quite a good stat as well. So that's kind of everything that I made a note of. Have you got anything else that kind of jumped out to you?
There were a few bits actually. I thought the biggest coup for the night, if you like, was because there was let's be honest, it was a lot of moaning. It was a lot of moaning directed at a chairman that's come in and said, I have put £150 million into this club. I've lost money. I haven't taken a penny out, and I want to build this for my son. And that was his exact quote, was, this is for my son. I want to make it into a whole perfect business ready to pass on to my son. And I think that's great. So for the amount of animosity and moaning that there was, I thought a lot of it was really, 99% of it was really, really unjust and really uncalled for. I think Mr. Chansiri really held his own with that. He mentioned a few times that if we want him to come in and do business, he will do business, but we won't like him. And I think that was really, it kind of, once he put that sort of spin on it, he thought back to the chairman that we've had before. And you think, yeah, actually, yeah, I'd rather it be like it is now, you know. He mentioned a few times that he can't do right for doing wrong. If he says we're going to sign a defender, people kick off and say, we don't need a defender, we need a midfielder. If he says we'll sign a midfielder, people say we need a defender. And he can't really get the right sort of balance on things. And I think that came across again when he mentioned about the shirt press release, when he said, you know, there's no point in saying things because you're going to find out anyway. And whatever we say, people will get annoyed either way. So there's no point in causing a negative impact or damage to the club, as he said, which he said, you know, don't take all my words literally. But I think that was quite true, really. When you think about it, even in our group of, say, 6 on the podcast chat that we have during the week, when we talk about things that are going to come up, normally one of us, Fudge, has a differing opinion to the rest. So I completely understand why he's trying to be a little bit more coy about things. And he's trying to say, look, you know, I've put this money in. If you don't want me to do it like that, if you want me to make a profit, and he said it's very, very easy to make a profit in the Championship. If I want to do that, I can. And I think one thing that he did say that I found it really hit home with me was when he said, you know, I could quite easily come in and save the club and sell it on for a profit to a businessman and you'd all clap me away. He says, but then when the businessman comes in, you moan at him for not doing enough. And it's very, very true. You know, Mr. Mandarich is held in very high regard, and I'll always love him for what he did for our club. But it's very true. He sold the club on, he made a profit, and he sold it on to someone who he promised he would. He promised he'd sell it to a businessman. We've now got that businessman who's putting in £150 million in 2 years, just over 2 years. And a lot of the room wanted to moan at him. So I think that really came across, that he feels a little bit almost disheartened with it. And I really hope that the fans listen to that and turn it around and think about the good that he has done and what he's achieved. And, you know, he's been here for less than 3 years, and in 2 of those years, we've almost got to the Premier League. And who could have said that 5-6 years ago? And I don't want to be a happy clapper about it all, because I'm not. And I think, you know, there are some things that still aren't right. But from that perspective, I think, you know, we do need to take a step back and go, wow, yeah, this is Sheffield Wednesday that I supported in 2004 or 2007, and it was awful. You know, it's different now. I think it was quite interesting when he said about, one of the good things that came out of it was when the chap from the New York Owls was there, and they'd mentioned about something about shirts being given to overseas memberships or something like that. I think there was a bit of a don't mention this outside the room with regards to some bits of that. But he said something about they were looking into an overseas membership scheme. And the guy from the New York Owls picked up on that and just mentioned, like, obviously we're a big group, there's 50 of us go, we've got the iFollow thing now, which is brilliant, which they said we've signed in for a year's deal with, just as a trial, which is great. And they are going to get commentary on it as well, which is even better, because apparently it's just silent. But Joe Palmer was genuinely keen to speak to the New York Owls and offered to swap details. And he said that they'd have a lot of chats and a lot of discussions about how they work this. And I think that's a really, really positive move, because those guys are important. And we know, because we meet them a lot when they come over to the games, and, you know, they're keeping the name alive over in America. And there are Spanish owls, there are Chinese owls, there are owls all over the place, really. And if we can reach out as a club and do that, and I'm pretty sure Thailand is probably a big project that Mr. Chansiri wants to reach out to and make us big. But when you look at football, especially in the Middle East and Asia, there's so much money being bandied about, and it's all about getting the big names over there now. When you look at like the Lampard situation like a year or so ago, and you're talking phenomenal amounts of money. we can easily get a piece of that pie. We can easily be a name that people remember again. And I think the club seem quite keen to do that. And that can only mean good things, you know. What happens if suddenly the Brazilian Owls all become members and one of them's got a kid who could easily be the next old school Ronaldo and actually comes to us instead because he's a Wednesday fan? You never know. So I think that was a really, really positive thing. And I think Joe Palmer, I was watching him and he immediately made notes on that and immediately said, I'm going to swap details with you to that guy. So I think that could be a really positive thing to come out of that. And it also means if we're ever on holiday, we'll probably have some people to watch the match with and watch it live. Great.
Absolutely. I've got to say this because he'll shoot me if I don't. That guy was James, who is a regular listener to the podcast.
Sorry, James, I didn't know your name.
Hi to him. One of the things that this might have been after you'd gone actually, but one of the things that the chairman said is that if anyone wants to criticise something that he's done or question something that he's done or what the club's done, he said, ring the club, talk to me, send me an email, send me a letter. I respond to every letter that I get. He kind of almost made an appeal for people not to slag off the club on social media, which I know is kind of almost asking for the impossible, but actually fair in terms of the fact that why would a fan want to do something that damages the club? But then he made a really passionate appeal, which is that if you want to ring me up and shout at me over the phone, then do it, but don't start contacting members of my family and sending them messages about what's happening at the club. And I think this is we know that his son, one of them particularly, is very active on social media, and it sounds like gets quite a lot of hassle from fans about things that his dad's doing, and he seemed genuinely upset about that, and so just to kind of repeat that appeal really, which is by the sounds of it, he's really happy for you to just ring the club, talk to him if you want to have a go, if you want to kick off, go for it, but it's kind of common sense, but it's not appropriate to be sending messages to members of his family kind of complaining about signings being made or not being made or asking for information about stuff like that.
Yeah, he also stressed the same with players' families as well. He said afterwards, didn't he? He was like, he said, at the end of the day, I want to build this club for my sons. He said, and my sons are going to run this club. Do not approach my family. Do not upset my family. He was like, when they're in charge, I'm sure they'll be happy for you to ring them. But for now, leave them alone. And I must admit, as we left, his son, is it that's got the YouTube channel? He was sat in reception. And I thought, what, you look at him, he's a little kid. Like, why are people sending him messages, like grown men and women sending this kid messages? And he could have been my child. Like, he was so young and so cute. And he was just sat there playing on like his Nintendo or whatever, waiting for his dad to finish work. And I thought, actually, yeah, that's the sort of people, these big burly blokes on Twitter and whatever, or YouTube leaving nasty comments. You're saying it to a child, like a 10-year-old child, like, get over yourself. But he did stress as well, the fact, I know from the last podcast when we approached Nicky Weaver when he was out with his family, but he was more than happy to do it. But he did say, like, please, think about the players as well, the human beings. That yes, they earn a lot of money. Yes, they play for your club, but it doesn't give you the right to abuse them or their families either. And I think that's spot on. When you look at the abuse that Fernando Forestieri's wife gets on Twitter, it's awful. It's absolutely awful. And she's the wife and mother of his child, It's completely separate. If everyone who hates my fiance at work had a go at me, I'd be going mad. And you only have to times that by 100,000, and that's what they're getting every day. So just leave it out. Yes, they're earning a lot of money and they're living a lifestyle that we could only dream for, but at the same time that they're still a human being. They were still born the same way that we were born. They still eat the same way we ate. Just think about it like that.
Absolutely. So we said we were going to do 20 minutes. We've done nearly 40 minutes. So I guess it's a good time for us to wrap it up. I would mention there were quite a few other little bits and bobs that were talked about. My best advice, if you want to catch up with everything that was said at the steering group, if you go on Twitter, look up a guy called Malcolm Fox. If you don't already follow him, he's really good at tweeting details of everything that was said. So big up to Malcolm for that. And he is worth looking up on Twitter if you want to find out about some of the stuff that was talked about that we've not had a chance to talk about tonight. You can't though, can you? Because I think he blocked you. Me. So there we go. Anyone that wants to catch up with your stuff on Twitter, just remind us.
Yeah, if you want to follow me on Twitter, obviously we didn't do any live tweeting or whatever because you're not allowed, and we respect that. But if you want to follow me on Twitter, where you can get most ramblings, especially now the season starts, it's Victoria1867. Or you can email me, vic@thewednesdayweek.co.uk, but probably don't do it until next Saturday when James has had a chance to figure out how to get it on my phone.
Fair enough. And if you want to catch me on Twitter @James Marriott, you can drop me an email if you want, james@thewednesdayweek.co.uk. If you want to find out more about the podcast, listen to some back episodes, they're all on our website, thewednesdayweek.co.uk, or look us up on social media. Right, that will wrap us up for tonight. We will be back, every week during the season with our normal ramblings. It won't quite be as kind of sophisticated as this. I think it's been quite nice, just the two of us.
It's better when it's just us, isn't it?
Rehearsal for married life. At least we know that we'll get on fine. So we'll speak to you again next time on our normal podcast. But thank you very much for listening.
See you later. Bye.
There's a chance here.